The cantina on mining station Omega-7 was filled with smoke and the sound of alien voices. Neon lights cast strange colors across the faces of creatures from dozens of different worlds. In a corner booth, Grok lifted his drink with one of his massive hands and stared into the liquid. Grok was a Krellin, a member of one of the galaxy's most feared warrior races. His people stood 8 feet tall and had skin like armor plating. 4 eyes gave him perfect vision in all directions, and his species had conquered 12 star systems through pure military might. But tonight, Grok looked tired. "Tell us about the humans again," said Clack, sliding into the booth across from him. The Chitauri's insect features made it hard for other species to read his expressions, but his mandibles clicked with curiosity. Grok took another drink. "I told you already, 3 times. "Tell us again," urged Voss, a snake-like reptilian who worked as Grok's communications officer. "Something about that story does not make sense." The other mercenaries at nearby tables had stopped their own conversations to listen. Word traveled fast in places like Omega-7, especially when it involved the legendary Grok admitting to a defeat. Grok sighed and set down his drink. "Fine, but this is the last time." He looked around the cantina, making sure he had everyone's attention. 6 months ago, the Kepler Mining Consortium hired my fleet to clear out some human settlers in the asteroid belt near Proxima b. "How many ships did you have?" asked Voss. 47 combat vessels. My best crews. We had been working together for 15 years. Grok's 4 eyes focused on something in the distance. The humans had 16 ships. Most of them were converted. Civilian craft, cargo haulers with weapons bolted on, mining ships with missile pods attached to their hulls. Clack clicked his mandibles. "You outnumbered them 3 to 1. More than that if you count actual military vessels. They had maybe 5 real warships. The rest were flying junk." Grok paused to drink again. "Should have been easy money." A young Vorthon mercenary from another table called out, "What went wrong?" Grok turned to look at him. The Vorthon was barely old enough to serve in anyone's military, let alone work as a freelancer. "Everything went wrong, kid, everything." He activated a small holographic projector on the table. The device showed a 3-dimensional map of the asteroid field, where the battle had taken place. Red dots represented Grok's ships, while blue dots showed the human vessels. We came in standard formation. 3 attack groups, with support vessels, hanging back to provide covering fire. The humans should have retreated to the asteroid field where they could use the rocks for cover. Instead, they came straight at us. The hologram showed the human ships breaking away from the asteroid belt and accelerating toward Grok's much larger fleet. "I thought they were crazy," Grok continued. "Maybe their commander had lost his mind, but then they started talking." "Talking?" Voss leaned forward with interest. "Their leader, Captain Ben Parker, opened a channel to my flagship. He did not try to negotiate. He did not offer to surrender. He just looked at me through the screen and said, 'You are threatening our families. You do not understand what that means to us, but you are about to learn.'" The cantina had gone completely quiet now. Even the bartender had stopped cleaning, glasses to listen. Then he closed the channel and they attacked. Grok manipulated the hologram, showing the human ships spreading out in a pattern that made no military sense. "Look at this formation. No fleet commander in his right mind would order something like this." Clack studied the display. "They split their forces into groups of 1 and 2 ships each. They left themselves completely exposed." "Exactly. Any military academy in the galaxy would fail a student for suggesting tactics like these." Grok highlighted several human vessels on the display. But watch what happened next. The hologram began to play out the battle in slow motion. The scattered human ships began attacking Grok's formation from multiple directions at once. But instead of engaging in traditional ship-to-ship combat, they did something unexpected. That mining ship there? It flew straight into the middle of my second attack group and detonated its entire cargo hold. Took out 3 of my cruisers in one explosion. Grok pointed to another blue dot. That cargo hauler released a cloud of metal debris and used it to disable the sensors on half my fleet. The young Vorthan looked confused. They destroyed their own ships? Not destroyed, sacrificed. Grok's voice was quiet now. There is a difference. When you destroy something, it is gone and serves no purpose. When you sacrifice something, you trade it for something more valuable. He changed the hologram to show communication logs from the battle. Human voices filled the cantina, speaking in their strange language. The universal translators converted their words, but something in their tone needed no translation. Listen to them, Grok said. No fear, no hesitation. They knew they were going to die and they were happy to do it. One voice came through clearly. A female human pilot saying, "Colony 7, this is Transport 5. I have a clear run at their command ship. Tell my kids I love them." The transmission ended in static. She flew her unarmed transport ship directly into my command cruiser's engine section, Grok explained. Caused a chain reaction that took out the entire back half of my flagship. Voss shook her head. That makes no sense. Why would she do that? Because her children lived on Colony 7, the settlement we were supposed to clear out. Grok turned off the hologram. Every single human in that battle had family or friends in those colonies. They were not fighting for money or territory or even survival. They were fighting for each other. Clack's mandibles clicked nervously. But you still had superior numbers, superior firepower. Did we? Grok laughed, but there was no humor in Tai. By the time I realized what was happening, we had lost 18 ships to their suicide attacks. The survivors were scattered across the asteroid field, trying to figure out what had gone wrong. He activated the hologram one more time, showing the final phase of the battle. That is when the real fighting started. The display showed the remaining human ships regrouping near the asteroid colonies. But now there were more blue dots than before. Reinforcements? Asked the young Vorthan. Civilians. Grok's 4 eyes focused on the hologram. Miners, farmers, researchers, even children old enough to fly a ship. They came out of every colony in the system. Some of them were flying construction equipment. Others had converted passenger shuttles into bombers. The hologram showed dozens of small human craft swarming through the asteroid field, attacking Grok's remaining ships with whatever weapons they could find. A 12-year-old girl in a mining pod disabled one of my destroyers using a rock-cutting laser. Grok said quietly. She held position for 40 minutes while my crew tried to get their shields back online. 40 minutes, a child. The cantina remained silent. That is when I ordered the retreat, Grok continued. We had come to clear out a few mining colonies. Instead, we found ourselves fighting an entire star system full of humans who would rather die than let us harm their families. He finished his drink and stood up. You want to know what makes humans different? It is not their ships or their weapons or their tactics. It is that they do not know how to quit. Every other species in the galaxy understands when a fight is hopeless. Humans just fight harder. As Grok walked toward the cantina exit, the young Vorthan called after him. What happened to Captain Parker? Grok stopped and looked back. He survived. His ship was one of the last ones standing when we retreated. The mining consortium never hired us again. They said we had failed to complete the contract. He paused at the door. They were right. We failed because we thought we were fighting soldiers. Instead, we were fighting a family. After Grok left, the cantina slowly came back to life. But the conversations were quieter now, and many of the mercenaries found reasons to leave early. The story spread quickly through the station and then to other worlds. Within a week, 3 major mercenary companies had quietly removed human territories from their list of acceptable contracts. The word was spreading. Humans were different. And different, in this case, meant dangerous. The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council chamber stretched high above the assembled delegates. 12 different alien species sat in their designated sections, each group representing billions of lives across the galaxy. The air hummed with translation devices working overtime as heated voices filled the space. Commander Jake Morrison sat quietly in the human observation area. His uniform was simple compared to the elaborate robes and armor worn by the other species, representatives. Next to him, Captain Lisa Grant reviewed data on her tablet, her expression calm despite the chaos around them. "The human expansion must be stopped," General Zeth declared from the Vorthen section. His purple skin gleamed under the chamber's lights as he gestured with forearms toward a holographic display showing star maps. "In 50 years, they have claimed 3 entire star systems. At this rate, they will control a dozen systems within a century." Murmurs of agreement rippled through several alien delegations. The insect-like Chitauri clicked their mandibles in what Morrison had learned was their version of nodding. The gas-breathing methane lords released clouds of colored vapor that their translators converted into words of support. Ambassador Crix of the Vorthens stood next. His species looked almost human except for their extra arms and the distinctive ridge of bone that ran across their foreheads. "We are not here to discuss trade routes or mining rights," he said. "We are here because humanity represents something new, something unpredictable." Morrison felt Lisa tense beside him. They had expected this discussion, but hearing it spoken so directly was different. The humans had been invited to this session as observers only. They could listen but not speak unless directly addressed. Speaker Vex of the Crystalline Collective rose from her section. Her body was made of living crystal that caught and reflected light in beautiful patterns. When she spoke, her voice sounded like music. "The human species has expanded faster than any other in recorded galactic history. Their ships are not the fastest. Their weapons are not the strongest. Yet they continue to grow." "What exactly are you suggesting?" asked Representative Nuth of the Hegemony. His gray skin looked like stone and his voice was deep and slow. General Zeth activated the holographic display again. Red dots marked human settlements across 3 star systems. "Look at their pattern of expansion. They do not follow standard colonization models. Most species establish a few major colonies and focus on developing them. Humans spread everywhere. They put settlements on planets that other species would consider worthless." The display zoomed in on the Kepler system. Dozens of small human outposts dotted asteroids, moons, and even space stations built around gas giants. They mine ice from comets. They build farms on worlds with hostile atmospheres. They extract resources from places we never thought to look. Morrison watched the display with interest. He had helped plan some of those settlements himself. To humans, it seemed natural to use every available resource. Apparently, other species found this behavior strange. Speaker Vex's crystal form shifted colors as she spoke again. "There is something else, something that concerns my people greatly. We have studied human military engagements from the past decade. Their tactics are unusual." A new hologram appeared, showing battle formations and ship movements. During the Proxima incident, human forces were outnumbered 3-1. Standard military doctrine suggests they should have retreated to a more defensible position. Instead, they attacked. The hologram showed human ships breaking formation and engaging enemy vessels in seemingly random patterns. They used civilian mining ships as weapons. They turned cargo containers into missiles. They fought with equipment that was never designed for combat, and they won, added General Zeth quietly. Silence fell over the chamber. Morrison noticed that several delegates were looking in his direction now. He kept his expression neutral, though inside he was beginning to understand why this meeting had been called. Representative Noth spoke again. "Are we seriously considering military action against a species because they are successful?" "We are considering our options," Ambassador Crix replied, "because their success follows patterns we do not understand. When the Zephyrian colonies were attacked by pirates last year, they requested assistance from the Galactic Defense Force. Standard procedure. When human colonies face the same threat, they do not ask for help. They deal with it themselves." The hologram changed again, showing communication logs from various human settlements. Here, a mining colony with 300 people fought off a raider fleet for 6 days without external assistance. Here, a research station with 12 scientists managed to disable a pirate cruiser using modified sensor equipment. Lisa leaned closer to Morrison and whispered, "They make it sound like we're doing something wrong." Morrison nodded slightly. To him, self-reliance seemed natural. If someone threatened your home, you defended it. If you needed something, you found a way to get it yourself. These concepts appeared to be foreign to the other species. Speaker Vex continued her presentation. Most concerning is their response to losses. When the Vorthans lose a colony, they negotiate for its return or accept the loss and move on. When humans lose something, they take it back. The chamber fell silent again. Morrison remembered the incident she was referring to. Pirates had captured a small human research station near the edge of their territory. Instead of negotiating or writing off the loss, 3 different human colonies had sent ships to retrieve their people. The rescue mission had turned into a week-long campaign that ended with the complete destruction of the pirate base. General Zeth addressed the chamber formally. I propose a coordinated response to contain human expansion before it becomes a threat to established galactic order. We have the numbers and the technology to push them back to their home system. The voting began immediately. The Vorthans voted yes. The Chitauri voted yes. The Methane Lords voted yes. 3 more species added their support. But then the Crystalline Collective voted no. The Hegemony abstained. 2 smaller species voted against the proposal. Ambassador Crix announced the results. 6 votes in favor. 2 against, 4 abstentions. The motion fails. As delegates began filing out of the chamber, Morrison stood to leave. He was surprised when Speaker Vex approached him directly. Commander Morrison, she said, her crystal form shifting to deeper, blue tones. May I speak with you privately? They walked to a quiet corner of the chamber. Vex's musical voice was softer now, almost uncertain. Your species troubles us, Commander. We have studied your history, your wars, your literature. There are things about humans that we find difficult to understand. Morrison waited for her to continue. When other species fight, we fight for resources or territory or ideology. When humans fight... She paused, her crystal body flickering between colors. When humans fight, you fight for each other. This makes you unpredictable, dangerous. We're not looking for trouble, Morrison said simply. No, Vex agreed. But trouble seems to find you anyway, and when it does, you respond in ways that surprise. Everyone, including yourselves, I think. She turned away, then looked back at him. Commander, I voted against the containment proposal not because I think humans are harmless. I voted against it because I think we do not yet understand what we would be fighting. As Speaker Vex walked away, Morrison realized that humanity's position in the galaxy was more complicated than he had thought. They were not just another member species trying to find their place among the stars. They were something else entirely. Something that made even powerful alien civilizations nervous. He found Lisa waiting for him near the chamber exit. How did it go? She asked. Morrison looked back at the now empty chamber where 12 species had debated humanity's future. I think we need to have a long talk with Earth Command, he said. There are things happening here that we need to understand. Dr. Nala Voss entered the secure conference room deep within the Galactic Council headquarters. Her tentacles moved nervously as she arranged her data tablets on the polished table. Around her sat the most powerful military minds in the galaxy. Representatives from 8 different species who controlled fleets capable of destroying entire star systems. General Thane of the Hegemony was the first to speak. His stone-like features showed no emotion as he gestured toward the thick report in front of each delegate. Dr. Voss, your preliminary findings were disturbing enough to call this emergency session. Please explain what you have discovered about human military psychology. Dr. Voss activated the room's holographic display system. Images of various alien species appeared, showing their brain structures and psychological profiles. Most spacefaring civilizations follow similar patterns of mental development, she began. We evolve past our primitive, aggressive instincts before we achieve interstellar travel. War becomes a tool of policy rather than an expression of emotion. Admiral Korth of the Stellar Navy leaned forward. Are you saying humans are more primitive than other species? No, Admiral. I am saying they are different. Dr. Voss changed the display to show human brain scans alongside those of other species. Look at these neural pathways. In most species, The areas responsible for aggression and territorial behavior shrink as intelligence develops. In humans, these areas remain fully active alongside their advanced reasoning centers. Commander Zix of the patrol fleet studied the images. What does this mean in practical terms? Dr. Voss pulled up recorded communications from human military engagements, spanning the past 10 years. It means that when humans fight, they are not just following military doctrine, they are expressing something deeper, something that connects to their most basic survival instincts. The first recording began to play. It showed a human colony under attack by pirates. The colonists' leader, a woman named Carol Davis, was speaking to her defenders over their communication system. "They want our home," Davis said in the recording. "They want to take away everything we have built here, everything our children will inherit. We cannot let that happen." Dr. Voss paused the recording. Notice her language. She does not speak of military objectives or strategic goals. She speaks of home and children and inheritance. This is not political. It is personal. General Thane looked skeptical. "Many species fight to defend their homes, Doctor." "Yes, but observe what happens next." Dr. Voss resumed the recording. The pirate fleet in the recording was 3 times larger than the colonial defense force. Standard military doctrine would suggest negotiation or strategic retreat. Instead, Carol Davis gave an order that surprised everyone in the conference room. "All civilian transports are to dock immediately and take on whatever weapons we have available. Anyone who can hold a gun is now part of the defense force. Anyone who cannot fight is to begin evacuating the children to the underground shelters." Recording showed civilian cargo ships being fitted with mining lasers and construction equipment being converted into weapons. Farmers and shopkeepers were taking positions alongside trained soldiers. "They militarized their entire population in less than 6 hours, Dr. Voss explained. This is not unusual behavior for humans under threat. They do not distinguish between military and civilian when their communities are in danger." "Admiral?" Korth shook his head. "That violates every principle of civilized warfare." "Humans do not appear to recognize the concept of civilized warfare," Dr. Voss replied. "To them, any threat to their people justifies any response." She showed another recording, this one from the Battle of Kepler 442. Lieutenant Sam Brooks had been commanding a small outpost when raiders attacked. The recording showed Brooks speaking to his superiors as enemy ships surrounded his position. "Command, this is Outpost 7. We are outnumbered and outgunned. Request immediate reinforcement." The response came back quickly. "Outpost 7, reinforcements are not available. You are authorized to surrender to preserve lives." Brooks' answer made several aliens in the conference room shift uncomfortably. "Negative, Command. These people are counting on us. We will hold position." Dr. Voss fast-forwarded through the battle footage. "Lieutenant Brooks was killed in the first hour of fighting. Watch what happened next." The display showed human reinforcements arriving steadily over the next 3 days. Not just military units, but civilian volunteers, retired veterans, and merchant ships that had been converted for combat. A mining supervisor named Pete Johnson flew his cargo hauler across 2 starry systems to join the fight, Dr. Voss noted. He had never met Lieutenant Brooks. He had no family or business interests on Kepler 442. He came because he heard that humans were under attack. Commander Zix looked puzzled. Why would he risk his life for strangers? Because to humans, they were not strangers. They were part of the same tribe. Dr. Voss changed the display to show communication logs from the battle. Listen to how they talked to each other. Human voices filled the room, speaking over military radio channels. The universal translators converted their words, but the emotion in their voices needed no translation. "This is Captain Murphy, in cargo. Ship Delta. I have medical supplies and ammunition for anyone who needs them." "Murphy, this is Sergeant Williams. We have wounded at Grid 7. Can you make it through the fire zone?" "On my way, Sergeant." "Nobody gets left behind." Dr. Voss highlighted that last phrase. Nobody gets left behind. This appears in human military communications more than any other statement. It is not an order or a policy. It is a promise they make to each other. General Thane studied the data carefully. Doctor, are you suggesting that humans cannot be defeated in conventional warfare? I am suggesting that humans do not recognize conventional defeat. Dr. Voss brought up casualty reports from various conflicts. In the Vorthan-Zephyrian War, both sides accepted ceasefire agreements when their losses reached 12%. In the Chitauri expansion conflicts, fighting stopped when resource expenditure exceeded projected gains. She highlighted human conflict statistics. Humans have continued fighting with casualty rates above 50%. They have won battles, after losing more ships than most species commit to entire wars. Admiral Korth leaned back in his chair. What you are describing sounds like madness. From our perspective, perhaps. But from a human perspective, it is loyalty. Dr. Voss showed images of human memorial sites scattered across their colonies. They remember every soldier who dies fighting for them. They build monuments and hold ceremonies and teach their children the names of the fallen. Commander Zik studied the images. Most species honor their military dead. Yes, but humans do something more. They make their deaths meaningful by refusing to let their sacrifice be wasted. If a human dies defending a colony, that colony will never be surrendered. If a human ship is destroyed protecting a convoy, that convoy will reach its destination no matter what the cost. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. Dr. Voss continued her presentation. This creates what I call exponential escalation response. Each human death in a conflict makes the remaining humans fight harder rather than seek peace. The more they lose, the more committed they become. General Thane asked the question everyone was thinking. Doctor, what would happen if a major galactic power declared war on humanity? Dr. Voss looked around the room at the assembled military leaders. Based on my analysis, General, such a conflict would not end until either humanity was completely extinct or their enemy was completely defeated. Humans do not appear capable of accepting partial defeat or negotiated surrender when they believe they are fighting for survival. She deactivated the holographic display. Moreover, they would adapt their tactics continuously throughout such a conflict. Human military innovation accelerates under pressure. They would likely develop new weapons and strategies that could threaten any species that fought them. Admiral Korth spoke quietly. Are you recommending that we avoid military confrontation with humanity? Dr. Voss gathered her data tablets. Admiral, I am recommending that we avoid giving them a reason to see us as a threat to their survival, because once humans decide that you are trying to destroy them, they will not stop fighting until either you are gone or they are. As the military leaders filed out of the conference room, each carried with them a new understanding of humanity's place in the galaxy. They were not just another spacefaring species seeking territory and resources. They were something far more dangerous, a species that fought not for conquest, but for each other. Major Rick Stone sat alone in his cramped office aboard the EDF cruiser Defiant, staring at the glowing screen in front of him. Coffee had gone cold hours ago, but he barely noticed. The intercepted alien communications he was reading changed everything he thought he knew about humanity's place in the galaxy. The ship's artificial intelligence had been working for weeks to decode the encrypted messages. Most were routine diplomatic traffic between various alien governments, but buried within the data streams were discussions that made Stone's blood run cold. Computer, display file designation Alpha 77 again, he said. The screen filled with translated text from a Vorthan military planning session dated 3 years earlier. Stone read it for the 5th time, still unable to believe what he was seeing. Invasion Scenario 12. Direct assault on human home system, the document began. Projected casualties. 60% of invasion fleet destroyed or disabled within first month of operations. Estimated occupation time impossible to maintain. Human resistance patterns suggest insurgency operations would continue indefinitely. Stone scrolled down to the conclusion. Recommendation: avoid direct military confrontation with human forces. Seek diplomatic solutions to all territorial disputes. He pulled up another file, this one from the Crystalline Collective's Intelligence Service. The message was only 6 months old. Analysis of human tactical adaptation rates exceeds all previous calculations. Species demonstrates ability to reverse engineer captured technology within weeks rather than years. Recommend treating human expansion as inevitable and focus on maintaining friendly relations. A knock at his door interrupted his reading. "Come in," Stone called. Colonel Amy Phillips entered, carrying her own data tablet. Her usual confident expression was replaced by something closer to confusion. "Rick, please tell me you have some explanation for what I've been reading." Stone gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Let me guess. You found the Hegemony War College files." Phillips sat down and activated her tablet. "They've been using human military history as a required course for their officer training program. Listen to this excerpt from their curriculum guide," she read from the screen. "Human conflicts demonstrate total war methodology that exceeds all known parameters. Students will study the Terran World Wars, the colonial expansion conflicts, and the asteroid belt campaign as examples of escalation patterns to avoid triggering in future military operations." Stone leaned back in his chair. "It gets worse. Look at this message from Zephyrian Fleet Command to their border patrol units." He displayed the document on his screen. "All ships operating near human territory are ordered to avoid actions that could be interpreted as aggressive. Human response to perceived threats often involves mobilization of civilian vessels and resources in patterns that violate standard rules of engagement." Phillips read over the message. "They're afraid of us. Not just afraid, terrified." Stone pulled up a comprehensive file that contained dozens of similar communications. "Amy, every major species in the galaxy has been quietly studying us for decades, and every single one has reached the same conclusion. Which is that fighting humans is too dangerous to attempt." Stone highlighted a passage from a Chitauri military assessment. "This one is my favorite. Listen to this. Human military forces demonstrate concerning disregard for acceptable loss ratios. Species appears willing to accept complete destruction rather than surrender. Recommend avoiding conditions that might trigger human defensive responses." Phillips stared at the screen. "Rick, are you telling me that galactic foreign policy has been shaped by fear of humanity?" Stone activated the wall display and showed a timeline of human diplomatic interactions over the past 50 years. "Look at this pattern. Every trade dispute, every territorial disagreement, every border incident has been resolved in our favor. I always thought we were just good negotiators. And now I think they've been giving us whatever we wanted to avoid having to fight us for it." Stone highlighted several key events on the timeline. "Remember the Proxima mining rights dispute 5 years ago? The Vorthons had a legitimate claim to those asteroids under galactic law, but they withdrew their claim after minimal negotiations." Phillips studied the timeline. "What about the Kepler colony establishment? We set up settlements in a system that 3 different species were already surveying. They all backed off and wished us luck with our new colonies." Stone showed her the communication logs from that time. "I thought they were being polite, turns out they were being careful." He pulled up another document, this one from a secret Methane Lord intelligence briefing. "This one really opened my eyes. It's an analysis of human population psychology written by their xenosociology department." Phillips read the document header. "Humans, a species-wide military unit analysis. They don't see us as a normal civilization with separate military and civilian populations," Stone explained. "To them, every human is a potential soldier. Every human colony is a potential military base. Every human ship is a potential weapon." The document continued with detailed observations about human behavior patterns. "Human civilians demonstrate willingness to engage in combat operations when community survival is threatened. Distinction between military and non-military personnel appears to be organizational rather than psychological." Phillips looked up from the screen. "They think we're all warriors. Worse than that. They think we're all crazy warriors who don't know when to quit." Stone showed her a compilation of alien military doctrine updates from the past decade. "Look at how many species have changed their standard operating procedures specifically to avoid triggering human defensive responses." The file showed revised protocols for dealing with human territories. Ships were ordered to maintain greater distances from human colonies. Trade negotiations were given priority status to prevent disputes from escalating. Military exercises were forbidden in any system where humans had a presence. "This is incredible," Phillips said, scrolling through the documents. "The Stellar Navy has an entire department dedicated to predicting human reactions to various scenarios." Stone nodded. "And their predictions all say the same thing. Humans respond to threats with disproportionate force and unlimited commitment. They've classified us as what they call a total response species." "What does that mean?" "It means they think that if you threaten one human, all humans will consider it a personal attack." Stone displayed a psychological profile that had been compiled by multiple alien intelligence services. "They've studied our news broadcasts, our entertainment media, our historical records. They know about our tendency to rally around anyone who's under attack." Phillips read through the profile with growing amazement. "According to this, they think humans are incapable of abandoning each other in combat situations." "Are they wrong?" Stone asked. Phillips considered the question. "I've never seen a human unit retreat while they still had wounded to evacuate. I've never heard of a human colony surrendering while they still had ammunition to fight with." Stone pulled up the final document in his collection. "This is from a joint intelligence report compiled by all 12 major galactic powers. It was written after the asteroid belt incident 6 months ago. The document was titled, Humanity, Threat Assessment and Recommended Policies." Phillips read the executive summary out loud. "Human military capabilities are not based on superior technology or numerical advantage. Human effectiveness stems from psychological factors that make them extremely dangerous opponents in any extended conflict. Species demonstrates unlimited escalation potential and appears incapable of accepting defeat while any resistance remains possible." She looked up at Stone. "What's their recommendation?" Stone highlighted the final paragraph. "Maintain peaceful relations with humanity at all costs. Avoid actions that could be interpreted as hostile. Never engage human forces unless prepared for total war scenario with complete species commitment." Phillips set down her tablet. "Rick, we're not just another member of the galactic community. We're the species that everyone else is afraid to fight." Stone nodded. "And the scary part is they might be right to be afraid, because I can't think of a single situation where humans would just give up and accept defeat if someone was threatening our people. So what do we do with this information?" Stone looked at the wall display showing decades of alien communications about humanity. "We report it to Earth Command, because I think it's time our leaders knew that human diplomacy has been succeeding not because we're good negotiators, but because nobody wants to find out what happens when they tell us no." The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called with only 12 hours' notice. Admiral Jake Morrison stood at the center of the great chamber, feeling the weight of a dozen alien gazes upon him. The promotion from commander had come through just days earlier, along with orders that still made his head spin. "Tell them everything," Earth Command had said. "No more pretending we don't know what they think of us." Morrison looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives. Ambassador Crix of the Vorthon sat rigid in his chair, his forearms crossed in a defensive posture. Speaker Vex's crystal form flickered with nervous energy. General Thane of the Hegemony looked like he would rather be anywhere else in the galaxy. Captain Lisa Grant stood beside Morrison, now wearing the insignia of his chief of staff. In her hands was a data tablet containing 50 years of intercepted alien communications about humanity. The truth that would change everything. "Honored delegates," Morrison began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. "We are here today because it is time to end the lies we have all been telling each other." A murmur ran through the alien delegations. Morrison had never spoken so directly before. For 50 years, humanity has participated in galactic politics, believing we were just another member species trying to find our place among the stars. We thought our diplomatic successes came from skill and mutual respect. Morrison paused, letting his words sink in. "We were wrong." Ambassador Crix shifted uncomfortably. "Admiral Morrison, I am not sure what you are suggesting." "I am not suggesting anything, Ambassador. I am stating facts." Morrison nodded to Lisa, who activated the chamber's main holographic display. The first document appeared in the air above them, translated into every delegate's native language. It was a Vorthan military assessment from 20 years earlier, recommending that all conflicts with humans be resolved through diplomacy rather than force. "This is from your own military archives, Ambassador Crix," Morrison said calmly. "Would you like to read the conclusion to the chamber?" Crix's purple skin darkened with embarrassment. "Admiral, that document is classified." "Not anymore." Morrison gestured to Lisa, who displayed the next document. "This one is from the Crystalline Collective's intelligence service. It recommends treating human expansion as inevitable and maintaining friendly relations at all costs." Speaker Vex's crystal form shifted through several colors. "How did you obtain these communications?" "The same way you obtained detailed psychological profiles of our species," Morrison replied. "The same way you have been studying our military tactics and population responses for decades. We have been watching each other, but only one side has been honest about what they discovered." He walked closer to the alien delegations. "You want to know what we learned? We learned that every single major power in this galaxy has been afraid to fight us. Not because we are stronger, not because we have better technology, but because you think we are crazy." General Thane spoke for the first time. "Admiral, that is a rather crude way to describe our concerns about human military psychology." "Is it?" Morrison smiled without humor. "Let me read you a quote from one of your own military assessments, General. Humans demonstrate concerning disregard for acceptable loss ratios. Species appears willing to accept complete destruction rather than surrender." The chamber fell silent. "Here is another one," Morrison continued, as Lisa displayed more documents. "This is from the Zephyrian Fleet Command. Human response to perceived threats often involves mobilization of civilian vessels and resources in patterns that violate standard rules of engagement." Representative Noth of the Hegemony leaned forward. "Admiral, these assessments were made to help us understand human behavior patterns." "No, Representative. These assessments were made because you were afraid of what would happen if you had to fight us." Morrison gestured to the displays around the chamber. "Every trade dispute resolved in our favor. Every territorial disagreement settled with human victory. Every diplomatic incident ending with alien concessions." He looked directly at Ambassador Crix. "You gave us the Proxima mining rights even though you had a legitimate legal claim to them. Why?" Crix remained silent. "I will tell you why," Morrison said. "Because your military planners calculated that fighting us for those asteroids could trigger what you call a total response scenario. You were afraid that attacking one human mining operation might bring every human in the galaxy to fight you." Speaker Vex finally spoke, her musical voice barely above a whisper. "Were we wrong to be afraid?" Morrison considered the question carefully. "Speaker Vex, when pirates attacked the research station at Kepler 442 last year, 17 different human colonies sent ships to help. We had never met those researchers. Most of us had never even heard of their work, but they were humans under attack, so we came. That is exactly what frightens us," General Thane said quietly. "I know." Morrison's voice was gentler now. "And I understand why. When the Vorthans lost the colony at Rigel 7, they negotiated for its return. When humans lose something, we take it back. When the Chitauri face pirates, they call for help from the Galactic Defense Force. When humans face pirates, we hunt them down and make sure they never threaten anyone again." He walked to the center of the chamber. "You have been studying us for 50 years, trying to understand what makes us different. Let me save you some time. We fight for each other. Not for territory or resources or political goals, for each other." Captain Grant stepped forward. "The intercepted communications show that every major power has restructured their military doctrine to avoid triggering human defensive responses. You have created buffer zones around our territories. You have changed trade routes to prevent accidental conflicts. You have built your entire foreign policy around not making us angry." Morrison nodded. "And now we know. The question is, what do we do about it?" Ambassador Crick spoke carefully. "What do you want from us, Admiral?" "Honesty," Morrison said simply. "We never wanted to be the galaxy's boogeyman. We just wanted to protect our people and build something good among the stars." Speaker Vex's crystal form brightened. "What are you proposing?" Morrison gestured to the document still displayed around the chamber. "We propose ending the fear. You have been afraid of what humans might do if pushed too far. We have been wondering why everyone seemed so eager to avoid fighting us. Now, we all know the truth." He looked around at each delegation. "Humans are willing to fight and die for each other. That will never change. But we would rather build and create together." "That will not change either." General Thane asked. "How do we move forward from here?" "By admitting that fear has been driving galactic politics for 50 years, Morrison replied. "And by deciding to replace that fear with something better." Lisa activated a new display showing proposed joint projects between human and alien colonies. "We propose the Galactic Development Initiative, joint exploration missions, shared research projects, cooperative colonization efforts, working together instead of avoiding each other," Morrison added. "Building something that benefits everyone instead of just trying to stay out of each other's way." The chamber remained quiet for several minutes as delegates consulted with their home governments. Finally, Speaker Vex stood. "The Crystalline Collective supports this initiative," she announced. "We have spent too many years afraid of what humans might become. Perhaps it is time to help them become something wonderful." One by one, the other delegates added their support. Even Ambassador Crix eventually stood and spoke for the Vorthan Empire. "We agree to this proposal," he said. "But we have one condition." Morrison waited. "Promise us that human colonies will continue to defend each other the way they always have. Promise us that if any species threatens human families, you will respond the way you always do." Morrison looked confused. "Why would you want us to promise that?" Crick smiled for the first time since Morrison had known him. "Because if you are our allies, Admiral, then anyone who threatens us will have to deal with you too." As laughter filled the chamber for the first time in decades, Morrison realized that humanity's reputation as an unstoppable force had become their greatest diplomatic asset. The galaxy had been afraid of human determination and loyalty. Now, that same determination and loyalty would be shared with friends instead of reserved for enemies. The fear that had shaped 50 years of galactic politics was finally giving way to hope. And perhaps, Morrison thought, that was the most human thing of all.